What's good with it in the hood with it? Welcome back to the collective clips where you already know. Tas. We get it in. But before we get it in, guess what happens before we get it in? You guys know what happens. We get the intro in. Welcome back to the channel. And if you haven't already hit that like and subscribe button, make sure you do that. Put your notification bell on all. Ding. So that way you're directed to the direction of the dope content that the gun stays kicking. I appreciate the support. I'm very humbled by it. Here we go, right? With my half an eyebrow. Das. It's still fucking only halfway. But it's there, right? And that's all that counts. Sasuke, it pulled up. It pulled up. Now, I wanted to talk about the Fresno Bulldog. Right? The dogs, man. The motherfucking Fresnel Bulldogs, F-14 Bulldogs, old school shit. And the most despicable, maniacal, diabolical Bulldog that was the most hated in the youth authority. I mean, this motherfucker, bro, I wanted to rip his fucking canines out. Still do. You know what I'm saying? Tap in, homie, if you're out there. We need that, right? Look, this Bulldog right here was pushing the narrative. Okay, when the Bulldogs and the Norteños first separated, I was around. I was right there. I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember you, homie. I remember you like it was yesterday. I was like my MC Boulevard, minus the being a baboso, right? I remember the day the Huila came. I remember when we went out to the yard right there in Fred C. Nellis in YA and had the junta. I remember all the Southsiders looking at us like, what's up, Issy? I remember they were shocked. We were shocked. The Hoovas were shocked, and they were just about to do their movida a couple months later. It was crazy, right? Imagine homeboys that you're eating with, busting spreads with, chilling, fighting in the square you're with. They got your back. You got their back. Everything's all good. They are Norteños, 14ers, all that. And then they hand you a Huila and say, hey, we don't fuck with you no more. We're different now. We're just Bulldogs. It hurt my heart. My heart burst, right? And I was pretty upset, but at the same time, I understood the situation. I understood that politics, and I understood that that's just the fucking way it was going to be from here on out. What I didn't understand is that automatically they were going to become the worst enemy and worst opposition that we ever faced. See, up until that point, it was the Southsiders in the woods, brother, right? And there wasn't a lot of woods where I was at, so they were inconsequential to our program. The woods that were there that functioned, they were just like Southsiders, so we just put them in the mix. But the Southerners were definitely a very big opposition to overcome, which Norteños never have up until this day, right? But we fought. They fought. We stabbed. They stabbed. We battery packed, and they definitely battery packed. And that's how that went. You know, you were able to survive. Barely, but you survived. The Bulldogs took it to another level. See, not only did they hand us a Huila saying that they were separating themselves, but at the same time, what they did in the meantime, in between time, was declare war. They declared war upon an opposition that were basically the same. We trained the same. We ate the same. We slept the same. We were the same. We went by the same reglas, same handshake, same everything. Immediately, three things changed: the handshake, the ways of thinking, and the world, right? Especially for the Norteños. It went upside down because now what you had was a bunch of homeboys from Sanjo and Salas that were pushing the narrative, hey, man, fuck these Bulldogs, right? Fuck these Vatos, right? And you had the Bulldogs that were saying, fuck all you Vatos, period. We are number one. We are the 14ers of this shit. And it was guerra. It was war. It was battery packings. It was stabbings. It was a lot of fights. Now, luckily for me, with this whole situation, I was very cool with the dogs. Growing up in the 209 area, and at the time, the Bulldogs did claim the 209. There was no 559 yet. There was no none of that. It was 209. Being a 209er, right, meant something. We've always been cut from a different cloth, just a little bit different, right? And because Bulldogs were 209ers at that particular time, we were very close, us from Merced, with them. And so for me, it was kind of like a situation when we went up against the dogs, like, do you or don't you? Most of the time, I did. But 9 times out of 10, you know, I always had to think, like, man, this was a homeboy that I was very cool with. Anyways, it was different. And the only way to understand it was having been through it. You know, a lot of people talk about the history now of when the Bulldogs did the split with Norteños, and a lot of people talk about how big of a loss it was for the Norteño cause, and they ain't lying, it was. But it was also a loss for the Bulldog cause because at the same time, a lot of the allies, a lot of the relationships that they built put them in a bind because they still wanted to be cool with certain individuals, but you couldn't pick and choose. There could be no individualism. It was just dogs or nothing. Now, I wanted to talk about a Bulldog that was probably the most hated ever. And this individual's name was LT Dog, right? Oh, I want to choke that motherfucker, right? This dude came into the youth authority aggressive. Hey, it's like he hated Norteños or hated ever being one. And his hatred spilled over, and he liked to be influential when it came to the dogs. In fact, he didn't even give them an option. See, at that time, a lot of the Bulldogs were still in flux. A lot of them still had them relationships. They still had them friendships. They were like, damn, dog, fuck, dog, right? A lot of them didn't know what to do. It's not like that anymore. Now it's pure hatred back and forth, north and south and Bulldogs, right? But prior to that, it was kind of like still new and everyone was still trying to get with the program. I mean, there were some institutions like Preston and some places like Watch Out, OH Close, where they were going at it. But there were some places like Carl Holton, DeWitt Nelson, and of course, Nellis, where it was like, we got to figure this shit out. Well, we figured it all out eventually, right? But prior to figuring it all out, we were still figuring. And this dude LT comes along, and I remember the fucking day he got there. He gets there, and immediately he takes flight on a Southsider. He was aiming for a Northerner. He was looking for a Northerner. According to his story, that's who he wanted to get. He wanted to set an example. He wanted to lay a demo down. He wanted to let all Norteños know, be put on notice that Bulldogs were here to stay, right? But he catches a Southsider. In fact, the Southsider catches him, hits him up. He says he's Fresno Bulldogs. At that time, the Southerners were not all aware that Bulldogs were no longer claiming north there, that there was a red light put on them. Because around, I'd say 6 months after the Bulldogs separated, there was a red light put on them. Not a green light, a red light, meaning full stop as far as the Southsiders went. And in some cases, the Bulldogs even assisted Southsiders in getting off with the Northerners. It was a trip when that happened. That right there blew my mind. Couldn't believe it, right? Could not believe it. This was no end of hostility shit. This was basically Bulldogs and Southsiders against Norteños. It was crazy. Same dudes I busted spreads with now trying to bust my shit open. Wasn't having it, right? Me and the homeboys from Sanjo indubitably did our thing. But they got me sometimes. You know what I'm saying? I've been stabbed, I've been maimed, I've been beat up. It's just the truth. So anyways, this motherfucker LT gets there. And immediately I'm being made aware of who he is because he had this certain thing against me personally. Didn't know me, but wanted to get him on my program because he had heard that his primo, Little Inez de Eastside Fresno, happened to be my celly. Yes, that was one of the best, probably the best celly I ever had. When I was in the youth authority, first celly I ever had in NRCC, he laced me up. He gave me up. He told me the program. We got off together 2 times, man. Bam, we were fucking handling business with Southerners from Bakers. Like, he was my dog. He was my boy, right? And he was a big-time Bulldog and Norteño at the same time. Like, he had a lot of respect and love for the 14. That was my boy. And because this dude knew that I had told people, like, hey, Little Inez is my boy, he targeted me. All of a sudden, he hated my guts because his primo was my boy. Well, I wasn't going to have that. You hate my guts? Guess what? I said, I hate yours. It goes both ways. The love they give or the hate they give even more tremendously. And so he gets put on a different compa. And word on the curb is he's going to catch me in the school area. He's looking for me. And he ends up getting beat up by a fucking Southerner, beat up bad by the Southerner from Florencia, right? Named Crazy Boy, who I ended up being cool with, rest in peace, later on. But anyways, Crazy Boy put all kinds of fingertips on him. Guess the dog paws weren't working that day. And that motherfucker goes to the oil. And I'm not just talking shit because I don't like him. This is the truth. Because he won a lot of the fights. He had hands, just not more than Crazy Boy. So he goes to the box, right? The caja, and he's woofing that high power shit. Immediately, he starts getting at all the dogs, telling them, hey, this is the way it's going to be. He had just come from Preston, and this is the way it was. And this is how it was going to be, right? And a lot of the Bulldogs at that time were youngsters, so they were impressionable, or they just were trying to figure out. They needed more game because this wheelie that came, a lot of them just went with it, and some of them were like, how do we know this is real? Like, we're Norteños, bro. Fuck that, right? So it was like a who's who of who the fuck are we? And he comes and he lets them know exactly who they are. And he starts getting people pumped up. And he was a fucking wolf case, bumping all kinds of manteca all over. I mean, it was not even baking soda breath. It was manteca all over the cell door. Greasy, right? He was grimy. This dude was buster this, buster that, talking shit, Norteños this. and had a 14 tattooed on him. And I used to trip and I used to be like, hey, I went to the oil. He was in there talking shit. And I said, hey, I'm Skinner. I'm the one you're looking for. Hey, you're the one that does the spider, eh? Watch out. Tres puntos like spider. Wow. I'm the boogeyman, right? I hit him with I'm the boogeyman. And this motherfucker wasn't having that. He was not feeling it, right? And so there was a lot of bumping baking soda breath on the door by him. And I was like, this fool's just a wolf case. Well, then another dog, Danny Boy, comes and I used to chop it up with him. And he was like, yeah, the fool LT's known, bro. He comes from a big family in Fresno. That's how it is in Fresno. They're all families, the Aguilars, the fucking Vindiolas, the Mendozas, the Aguirres, right? And he comes from the family of the Trevinos. And I'm like, all right. And this dude he was related to Nuns and Little Legs and all these very well-known bulldogs. And because his family was so known, he thought he was that one. But he was a little short, ugly motherfucker with a scruffy ass beard. And so he ends up coming to our compa, which at the time was Kennedy. And this motherfucker walked through the doors in Kennedy, right? And that's what they used to do is they used to release dogs little by little onto the compas, right? And how he slid into Kennedy is beyond my belief. How he slid out, well, I believe everything I did, right? So as that motherfucker came in, I was like, who the fuck is this? I thought he was a Southsider because he had a little scruffy, but you could tell he was pale as fuck, little short, stocky motherfucker. You could tell he did a lot of time in the oil, right? And so as I'm looking at him, I'm right there in the dairy, I'm meeting the sopa, and I'm just staring at him like, who the fuck is this dude? And I see the Southerners go up to him, and then the way they turned around and walked away, I was like, oh, maybe he's a Leva or something. I don't know. And so the homeboy Cisco from San Fran got up and he was like, hey, who is that? Right. And I was looking and I was like, oh no. And then I seen him turn and he had a bulldog tattooed on him. And I knew. I said, that's that motherfucker LT, bro. The cops came, they were going to take him down to the dorm. I could hear him talking to him. I jumped up and I was like, what's up? He was like, fuck you, busters, right? And we just rushed. All of us packed them out, and I was giving them the old school stizampazization, right? Motherfucker. Dale, right? Get him, Miklo. Suck on those fingers, right? Hey, he was getting fucked up. Got his ass whooped. Got carted up out of there, ended up back in the car. I went to Taft with all the other Bulldogs and was wolfing that high-power shit. Well, I ended up going to Preston. Like a year later. LT's out the way. Every time you go to the oil, you can hear him screaming and yelling and talking shit. And he's pumping Bulldogs up like, hey, we're supposed to take fight on all these Northerners. And I was wondering, why can't someone that used to be a Norteño hate him so much? But I understand because I see some disgruntled Norteños on YouTube that hate organizations so bad that all they do is talk shit about them. And so I understand that some people just deal with hate differently, right? Me, myself, I can never hate something I was once a part of because I'm ingrained. That fabric is ingrained. Like I'm part of the history there. So I don't hate. I might not agree. I might not rock like that, but I don't hate them. Not whatsoever, right? And I don't think I am them. And I'm not wearing red because I'm still trying to be a Norteño. I'm wearing red because I've been wearing red my whole life. And I like the Bulls. I like the Lakers. And shout. That's it. Tomorrow I'll wear blue. Go Dodgers. That's it. So anyways, as I end up getting rolled up and going. And when I say getting rolled up, that doesn't mean I got rolled up off the yard. The cops told me, here, roll it up. You're leaving. And I'm transpacking, right? And I transfer up to Preston. I get to Preston. It's a whole different animal now. There, Norteños and Bulldogs, the separation is real. Right there in that one particular place, you know what time it is, right? So from the gate, man, we're getting off with the dogs daily. The dogs were having their business, not handed to them, but they were handling their own. There was more Norteños than everyone. Southsiders kind of stood out the way. We did get into a couple predicaments, but they mostly stood out the way. At that time, we were going at it with blacks. For what reason, I don't know. And we were going at it with Bulldogs, right? And it was going fucking down. Greenbrier, Ironwood, Juniper, it was rocking. Everybody was in Tamarack. And guess who pulls up to Tamarack on a transfer-to-transfer basis? He went straight to the oil. LT Dog. So he's in there. I hear his scruffy-ass voice. Eastside, right? And I'm like, this is the only Bulldog in my life I've never liked, that I've hated. I don't hate no Bulldogs. Got a lot of respect for them. These motherfuckers are still around after all the ridicule and all the hatred they get. They handle their business, right? But this dude in particular, I can't stand his get down. You know, he's bumping big. So I'm like, hey, is that LT? He's like, what's up, dog? Who are you? I said, your worst nightmare, you idiot, right? And so we get to bumping a little bit, and I'm like, whatever. And this dude, I end up, luckily what happens is I go back to Greenbrier. I get out of Tamarack, go through a little program, and then I go to Greenbrier, and he's on Juniper. Juniper was rocking at the time. So he was setting shit off. Now, the one thing I will say about LT, he wasn't no punk. Was no sucker, handled his business, got off where he was mad at. He gave his family a good name. And so I was trying to catch up with them in the school area. I had this horticulture class, and we used to tell everyone, sign up for the horticulture class. You go over there and you can catch the business, right? The teacher that worked there, he didn't care who fought, who did drugs, whatever. As long as fucking you guys left him alone and let him jack off to his porn magazines in his office, it was all good. So this dude, I'm trying to get him to go there. I'm shooting wheelas to the dogs like, hey, tell your boy to come here. You guys could all come here, whatever. He doesn't make it because he keeps getting off in Juniper. He ends up doing a fucking program in Tamarack. About a month later, I'm like, fuck this. I need to catch up to this dude. I'm going to try to bust a movida with the Bulldogs. Me and a homeboy from Sanjo, right? There's a homeboy named Muggsy. Excuse me, not Muggsy. Bubba from Westside Horseshoe. Me and him are going to bust a move on the Perros because if we get down with the dogs, we're going to definitely get this program, and then I could try to catch up with LT there. That's how much I disliked him. I wanted to catch up to this fool. He was woofing that shit that he beat me up and all that. He was lying. All right. At that time, I was super duper fucking Norteño. Whopping. I wanted to get him. So I remember trying to bust the movida. We not trying, but we did. I go to the hole. They don't give me the program. I come back out to Greenbrier. I'm like, what do I have to do? Do I have to fucking, do I have to shoot the moon? Or, what I'm saying? What do I have to do? Do I have to hit the fucking big one in Cuba? I'm going to carve them up real nice. All right. What do I got to do? They ship me out to Carl Holton. I go to Carl Holton. I'm there. I forget about LT. It's whatever. Well, this little fucking dog named Blinky comes from the east side. Him and my boy Puerco from Sanjo, they used to go at it all the time in Nellis, and the shit continued. And I told stories about it. They got off on the gym, and this was about the time Big Smilon from Westside Fresno turned dog on us. And there was a lot of shit going on. He was a Fresno Norteño, then he turned dog. And I'm about 3 months to getting out. Like I'm getting close to my date. But at that time, it didn't mean nothing. I was already maxed out. It wasn't like prison. In prison, you're 90 days, you're all happy and shit. Like, fuck, I'm getting out. Hey, I'm going to go to Jack in the Box. I'm going to get me a fucking bomb-ass mom on. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to fucking give me a job. I'm going to go to the welfare department, give me stampillas. Like, you're thinking all these thoughts. And YA is like, I get out when they let me out. You're in there having fun, eh? You're kicking it. And this motherfucker LT dog pulls up. He's on Ebbets Hall, man. I'll never forget. And I was like, fuck. Everything flashed back in my mind. I got to get this dude. He was hated. And he was hated because he put in so much work. And I hated because he lied on me. He was like, I beat that fool's ass. Like, bro, you didn't even come close to beating off. What are you talking about, beating me up? That's what's never happened. Look, if I got beat up, and I got beat up by a lot of dogs, man, I got to give them their respect. They put hands and dog paws on me. He never did. And I'll stand by that. So I knew I was getting out, and it was in the back of my mind. But like I said, we didn't care. We were maxed out at youngster. So I fucking actually went to him, and so I go to the school area and I see this dude walking in the school area, right? Sure enough, it's LT dog. And he's walking with that dude Blinky from Eastside Fresno and a couple other dogs, right? And I'm peeping him out. Now, you got to understand, at this time, Bulldogs were there on the main line. We weren't beefing like that. It just, there was isolated incidences. There was a little mean mugging and shoulder shrugging, but it wasn't like it was an everyday on-site thing. Not at this time. It was a kind of a programming facility. It was a drug program. Everybody was just doing what they got to do, right? But I see him, and I feel that old blood boiling, that old northern raza blood, right? And I'm like, okay. So I'm with a couple homeboys, and they're like, hey, what's up? Why you keep staring at that Bulldog? You got issues? I said, I don't like that motherfucker. He's this, he's that. And you got to watch out, bro. He's pumping these dogs up. Sure enough, he doesn't see me in the square. I'm keeping my eyes on him, right? We had a lot of juice there, so I had certain classes that he wasn't in, and just like, okay. And I know you're saying to yourself, well, if you were really that mad and you were down, why didn't you get off right there? He said, I'm taking my time, eh? Give me a chance. We'll get to it. So anyways, fucking, sure enough, the word's getting back to us. Homeboys are riding wheels like, hey, this fucking dog's coming, running his mouth. He's trying to fucking get the Bulldogs riled up here. That's how his attitude was. He hated Norteños. So we're going to give him a little bit more to hate. You got to give him a little bit more to hate. You know how it is with the dog. Got to get him growling. We're going to get this motherfucker growling. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna show you how we puppy chow a motherfucker, right? If you act stupid. Didn't work out for everyone because them Bulldogs were stabbing people. But so as he's fucking walking the square, there was like these classes you just walk around. You can go in the opposite direction if you're going to your class. I went in the opposite, like 30 Northerners. We went in the opposite direction. There's like 6 or 7 Bulldogs. They weren't that deep. There's probably about, in the institution, probably about 20, 30 of them total on different compas. But he's walking this way, and I see LT dog, and I ain't gonna lie. Before I can get a word out, my whole plan was like, fuck you, fool, what's up? That motherfucker hit me. Boop. Bulldogs, right? Shh, man, we got off something vicious. There's like a grass area in the middle. Everyone was chunking him, man. When he hit me, he dazed me, and I went down, right? and he fucking like turned with the pencil to stab somebody. He was notoriously known to hit people with pencils. If I didn't take that pencil and break it over his face, pencil pop, right? Snatched this little motherfucker up, and I was throwing him against the window. Boom, boom. Man, I was rattling his cage. We ended up all getting caught up, most of us, in going to Yuba Hall, which was the hole there. But they couldn't keep you for a long time because it was half compa, half hole. So we're in there for a few days, man. And this dude LT kept running his mouth. And this lieutenant that was there kept telling me, shut the fuck up, Trevino. Shut up, right? Fuck you. And everyone's like, oh, he's doing a PC move. He's trying to just, and the way, there was no PC there, but people would just bump their baking soda breath until they got shipped out. And that's exactly what happened. They ended up shipping that fool out to Chad. And his claim to fame was, oh, I beat all the Northerners up. That's why I came to Chad. No, the thing was, Mr. Pencil Pop, you just kept running your mouth to that lieutenant. He got tired of you. He threw you on a bus in the middle of the night and threw your ass to Chad. That's the truth. Anyways, that was one of the most hated Bulldogs. And there's a lot of people that have stories about him. You know, to this day, I don't like him, the person he was. Hopefully he changed and he's doing good in life. And I get all riled up. I start turning red and shit. It's a bird. It's a plane. No, bitch. I am the red Batman. Right? I start getting all northerned out. Anyways, man, respects to everyone. That was the most hated Fresno Bulldogs I ever came across. Again, shout out to the Fresno Bulldogs, man. Respect for holding your own. But that vato was not it. That's facts. Bang, bang.